Christine here with Kndrd Quarters, and I'm so excited for these weekly interviews that I'm doing with other founders of co-living homes around the globe. And today we're going to start with Haz, who is the co-founder of the Swiss Escape, which is the page that's up right now. In Switzerland, he has 2 homes that he's running. He started 2 years ago. And we talk about a lot of things. We talk about how he got started and also where he sees the industry of co-living going in the future. He actually has spoke on different industry panels for co-living, which is exciting. So he talks a little bit about that. Actually, he comes to us today through the powers of the internet. He's actually in Budapest, Hungary for the month, doing some co-working and co-living over there. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Again, I'm super excited to bring these interviews to you guys. I'm doing one each week with different founders. Okay, so I am here with Haz. He is the co-founder of Swiss Escape. I'm super excited to interview him first on this series. I'm just reaching out to different founders of co-living spaces since finally this industry is starting to take off, and they have some amazing knowledge. So I'm going to go ahead and launch right into it. Haz, do you mind telling us more about the Swiss Escape?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, actually. It's really important that we get this word out, and I'm really passionate about co-living movement in itself. So Swiss Escape started 2 years ago, and it is in the French-speaking part of the Swiss Alps. So very focused towards nature and towards bringing entrepreneurs, remote workers, and such alike in one space so we can create some sort of synergy.
Love it. And then you started it how long ago?
So 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, and it all actually started in Lisbon because I was in the regular 9 to 5, as we were all in that kind of work flow. But I was always in tourism, so I always loved traveling. And I was like, how can I make sure that I'm always traveling but always meeting inspiring people? So my journey started in Lisbon, where I went to really network with entrepreneurs and get ideas on what do entrepreneurs really want and what are they missing. And that's where I kind of found the idea of co-living and how this is growing in the whole millennial age. So we came back and we were like, hey, there's nothing happening in Switzerland of this kind. And Switzerland in itself is very big on technology and housing and things like that. And a lot of the housing was quite expensive if you think about just buying a house or even renting one yourself. So we were like, why don't we convert a beautiful chalet in the Alps into a co-living space and just test it out? So just right after the first week launch, we started getting bookings. We had quite a few interests, and then we saw more and more people getting into it. And I think right after the first year, we immediately got the second property. So we are now on 2 properties. Yeah.
Nice. And then how many people can stay in each property?
So in each property, there are 8 people. We can fit 8 people. Wow. So together up to 15 to 16 people.
Okay. And they each have a private room, or does anybody share an actual room?
People can choose because we've designed our space in a way that we have modular beds, so they can be switched into a single room or shared room. So we move according to what the demand is.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then when you guys got the second house, were there any changes that you guys said, okay, let's do things a little differently? That maybe, it's trial and error, obviously, with each house. So what things did you change when you guys got the second one?
Yeah, so what was great is the owner of the space in itself was also the owner of the second space. So it was really easy to negotiate in that sense. And we really wanted it unfurnished this time, so we could choose what we wanted to put and how we wanted to design the space. And designing the space was very important because after the first year of experience, we saw that how people move around and how behavior changes across the rooms. So we installed some things which are very different from the first space. Like we've got a garage which has a ski storage system. So initially we had to rent out ski lockers, but now we have within the space ski storage. We've got boot warmers, and a lot of the storage space I think was very important. And then also we realized the kitchen in itself had to be more accessible for everyone to use at the same time, because sometimes it was like some people were using it and then others could not. So we had to make sure that we are able to manage that. And then of course, overall speaking of co-living spaces, we had to implement some sort of guides and rules within the house to kind of mitigate the whole environment.
What's like the top, maybe give me one or two of your guys' rules or house, just, where were the things you've noticed that needed that implemented? Because we have resident commitments. We have a whole, I think it's 7 different things that they commit to. And, it's general stuff like, to make the house run as smooth as possible. What were some of yours?
I think for us, it's mainly because we have a co-working space within the house, right? And then we have a dedicated Skype room. So we wanted to make sure that others are not being disturbed when people are on calls. So we had to sort of make a rule that, hey, if you have calls, we've got a dedicated room for that, and you should use that instead of doing it in the common co-working space. So to not disturb others. That's one of, let's say, the house rules that we created. Second, being it's just very simple, but we had a board where everyone can put up ideas on what they want to learn and what they want to teach. So that was very good for us to also implement events then. Like, hey, someone wants to go skiing this weekend, or someone wants to do that we have a place where everything can be put.
Ooh, I like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
How often do you guys have events?
Every week. I would say twice a week at least. So there's always one business event and one social event.
Every week?
So business every week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just within the homes, or do you guys invite outside people?
The thing is, we are in a small town, so we don't have a lot of people who are into this entrepreneurial vibe. More and more, we do organize events in big cities, so we can bring more people. But usually, it's just an in-house event.
Awesome. And then we should have started with this, but tell people where you're from and then where you're currently living. And you're not even in Switzerland right now. So explain that. So definitely a digital nomad. You can run anything remotely.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole idea of it, right? If I'm running a business which could cater digital nomad, then I need to experience what it is like to be a digital nomad, right? So I originally am from Dubai. And I moved to Switzerland about 6 years ago. And from then on, I've been working in the travel industry. I've moved around, lived in the Netherlands for a while as well. And now it's really that we've got this co-living space up and going, that it allows me to move around a bit more and really push this co-living movement, like Christine, you said it. So I often try to get involved in conferences or give talks at co-working spaces about future work and about how co-living is playing a crucial role in that.
Nice. No, perfect. And so you're in Budapest right now, right? For the month?
Yes, okay.
Exactly.
I'm in Budapest, and it's just a lovely place to be. Yeah.
Nice. No, that's great, because you practice what you preach. And then you're you're co-founder. Is there one other person?
Yes. So my co-founder is actually my partner, my girlfriend, basically. So it was very interesting to start a business with your own partner.
Yeah.
At first, it's a little different than starting with someone you don't know. But for us, it worked really well because we already knew how we work, and we kind of set rules right at this beginning, and roles and responsibilities, and I think it just works. Yeah.
Nice. No, that's great. And then what are some of the best, what are your favorite parts about running a co-living home?
Oh, I think the first and foremost is just meeting inspiring people every day.
Yeah.
I think that just makes me want to do it more and more, right? I think that's one of my favorite part for sure. Second is also how I understand different cultures because initially, we when we launched, the first booking we had was a girl from Singapore, and then we had bookings from Norway to US to Brazil. And when you bring all these people in one house, it's just an amazing experience. And then I learned so much about these countries, and I'm like, hey, I want to go there too because I've never thought this would be so exciting. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's sweet.
yeah,
No, and that's similar. Yeah, same thing. It's same. That would be my number one by far. Is just the
yeah,
learning about different cultures and then having these different people, these amazing, inspiring people live with you. You see how
yeah,
they live. You become close friends, and then
yeah.
it's sad though because then when they leave, right? So it's like they always are like no. But then when I travel to their country, then we hang out. Well, I'm on the other side of the world in Paris. I got to hang out with somebody who had lived with us last summer because that's where he's from and he was living there again. And by chance, we were there at the same time. And so I agree 110% is just, meeting new people, building new relationships, and then learning about new cultures.
Yeah. And I think it's really a small world because almost every place I've traveled, I've found someone I already knew before.
That was the only
Either
two.
either directly or either because someone told me, hey, my friend's right there, just go and catch up and have a coffee or a drink. Like, great. I don't need to even look for people. I've just got people everywhere now.
No, I love it. Even in Bali, the same thing. I bumped into a friend. I mean, he knew I was coming into town. I was going to meet with him that weekend, but
Yeah.
like I was there at the cafe to meet with somebody else, and then he would just happen to be there, and then we bumped into each other. I'm like, how do I bump into somebody like on the other side of the world? So no, that's really. I think you're right. I think the world is just becoming more connected and smaller.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always a good thing. So let me see. So I have my little list of questions here. Oh, so talk about your average. I want to know, and I'm sure the people watching too, what's the average stay? Like, do you offer nightly, weekly, monthly? And then what's the average? And then what's the average age?
Okay. So, also mentioning, I think most of the people that we attract are entrepreneurs. Some of them are remote workers and freelancers, but most are entrepreneurs. So they have their own businesses and they are able to run it remotely. Given that they are actually quite young, I would say somewhere around the age of 23 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
The demographic. Is it mostly guys or is it guys and girls? What's the
Guys and girls, I think there's no there's no specific preference. I think it's everyone who's into sports, nature sports.
um,
So we have an average stay of about 3 weeks in winter season and about 2 weeks in summer season. And usually, because winter season for us is very much focused on skiing and snowboarding and things like that, so people like to stay longer because they usually get a season pass and they're like, hey, I want to hang out for a month or 2 months at least. Whereas summers, like I want to go for hikes or paraglide or things like that. So it's very exciting, and that we get to see two different kind of people, and enthusiasts because we're like winter sports and summer sports. So it's two kind of people.
is there a minimum stay? Like, could somebody stay for a night or do you have a minimum?
Minimum is a week. We
Okay.
ask for a week. Yeah.
And then what's your occupancy usually run? Like, are you fully occupied 100% of the time or is it?
So our winter season, we are occupied, I would say, 90% of the time. And also winter season is something we get bookings quite early because sometimes we get bookings a year in advance. So winter season is quite full in that sense. Whereas summer season, our occupancy is a bit lower. I would say about 50% or 60%. But we're trying to push that more and more through events and
Oh,
that
yeah.
we're organizing. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, perfect. And then do you keep in touch with past, people that have stayed there? Do you build a relationship with all of them? Keep in touch with them?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they end up being friends. So it's just like we're always in touch, and they're like. So last week there was a person who stayed with us in Swiss Escape in Jan, and he was in Budapest last week, and he just wrote me like, "Hey, you want to catch up for a drink? I'm in Budapest." I'm like, "Great, let's do that." So we really connect on the personal level, and it's not just about, "Hey, I am running the space, and you are like the guest, and I'm like have this sort of a mirror between us," but it's more like I'm completely transparent with everything I do, and business-wise, but also personal in the personal sense. So I really connect with them on a personal level. They're all my Facebook friends as well, so I regularly chat with them on WhatsApp or on Facebook. So yeah.
And then when you're in Switzerland, do you stay at your own property? Is that where you always stay or no?
So the first year we were staying at our own property, but since the demand increased, now we got a third property where it's just the co-founders staying.
Oh, nice. And then you're going to expand to that, or is it a smaller place?
Right now it's a smaller place, so it's just a 2-bedroom apartment where we are just the co-founders staying. But if we see more and more demand, then we can of course expand to more spaces. But right now we had to step out of the co-living spaces in order to give the availability for others to join in.
I know, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What is it that you do?
Well, that's a good problem to have, right? So it was
Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
So the LA house got overbooked, and I literally was on an air mattress sharing one of the bedrooms with she's a good friend of mine, and we shared a room in Bali. So I was like, okay. And she's so sweet. She's like, hey, let's just share one of the bedrooms. And so I had a blow up mattress, and that was for only like 10 days. But still, it was so funny. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe like it's to the point where like we're overbooked. Again, good problem to have. But then, then next month, a lot of our housemates are traveling for summertime. They'll be gone for a week or 2 weeks. And then, so now we put their rooms on Airbnb to get those filled just for the short term.
Okay.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, and we've had residents that wanted to stay longer, and then, but the next person was already scheduled to move in. So there was no way they could extend. So again, good problems to have, but I'm just trying to figure out like the delicate balance of like availability and not letting a room sit vacant either.
Yeah, I
Totally.
think it's for us, it's really about prioritizing people. So usually when we have people who are coming back the second time or third time, they have a priority on the booking over new bookings. And also the new bookings are always, we always warn them that, hey, we have limited availability. So if you want something, you need to pre-book well in advance. And I think people get that message quite clearly. So that's why we get early bookings.
Do you give a discount to return bookers?
Yes, a 10% discount.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so do we. Or especially if it's a friend, like somebody we know really well, we'll discount it for them, obviously, because we know it's going to be easy to live with them, or we've lived with them before. Okay, perfect. And then talk more about, so I know that you are, so me and has met through, he has this amazing blog on Medium about co-living, and he reached out to us and listed us as one of the places for 2018. So I know you're super active in this industry. So you speak at different conferences. Like what events do you usually, I know you attend a lot of events too.
Yeah, actually, so everything tech related, I think. I've been to Web Summit, which is the biggest conference in Europe around the tech industry, which happens every year. So I try to get to that as much as I can. I've also been to Nomad City, where I've been a speaker, and this was really a panel of co-living space founders and co-working space founders talking really about some of the challenges and some of the, let's say, the future that we see here. But at the same time, I also have done something completely different, which is a nomad cruise. I don't know if you guys have heard about
I've heard of that. Yes. You did it what year did you do it?
I did it last year, so last fall.
Okay.
Which was from Spain to Panama.
Did you like it?
It was amazing. So it's basically a conference on a cruise ship, right? So you have a 2 weeks long Atlantic cruise, and you've got conference every day. So it's also like a big learning at the same time, but you're also kind of taking a bit of a detox from using your laptops and your phone all the time.
Nice.
So you get really into the talks and the workshops there. So yeah, I really enjoy. I think this is really a place where I can meet people, so not just know my cruise, but all sorts of events. That's why I try to do as much as possible to create some sort of an influence about the whole co-living movement.
Nice. And then that's my last question for you is where do you see this industry going?
Oh, I really see this as a norm. I would see it just like hotels or Airbnb has become. I would see co-living as just an option that every city has around the world. That you could either go into a hotel, either go into a Airbnb hostel, or a co-living space that you should be able to find anywhere and everywhere you go.
And then what would be, because again, this might just be here in the States, but
Mhm.
we're struggling with homeowners and property management companies understanding the concept. They've kind of been shying away with it. They don't like the word subleasing. They don't, they're very particular about who they want to rent their home to. Or have you found that to be an issue at all yet in this industry?
I think it really happens quite a lot in cities where the demand is high. But I think the important part is to negotiate with the owner about, hey, if this is how much you make in a year, this is how much we promise to get you in a year. And the rest of it, what we do with it is our problem then. But if we can guarantee them that they get 100K or 200K in a year, then they're happy with that.
And they're okay
So
with you. So the lease is just in your name there. And again,
yeah,
Switzerland might be completely different. And then they don't care like who comes in and out. You just guaranteed that rent for them.
yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Got it. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think cities like LA, San Diego, the ones we're
Yeah,
in, it's such like there's a shortage, so they can afford to be a little more picky about who they have in. But
yeah,
same thing, it's
yeah,
like, well, if we guarantee the rent and if we'd even sign a longer lease, that would be like
yeah,
the plus. And so again, it's just maybe, and that's the direction I want to go in, is educating these property management companies and
yes,
real estate people to say this is where things are going, so let's get there like sooner than later. I think they have more of
yeah.
an old school mentality.
Yeah, I think it's nice to always put on a bit of a presentation of like what you think you want to do with the space, what has been happening around the whole co-living movement with examples of something like China investing $11 billion in a co-living building. Um, so once you kind of put facts into perspective, I think they see it more clearly. I would
Yeah,
hope so, at least.
yeah, I know, right? Exactly. So what's the best way for people to find out more about what you're up to? Do they go to your website? Just let them know, and then I'll also have it in the notes also.
Yeah, definitely. So we run quite a bit of events. So I would definitely subscribe to Swiss Escape newsletter on our website to get the latest updates that we do. We are at conferences or moving around, so you get all the new updates there. And also, if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm fully accessible via email or Facebook or anything. So I'll pass that on to you, Christy.
Perfect. Yep. And like I said, I'll definitely note that here so you can get in touch with them if you have any further questions. Of course, if you ever want to take a trip to Switzerland, you can stay there, the Swiss Escape. I know that now that's going to be on I've never been there yet. So I now have that on my travel list. But I appreciate
Yeah.
you taking the time today to do this interview. Thank you so much.
Definitely appreciate it, Christina. I think I really enjoy talking with you as well. Happy to be part of this. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. We'll talk later.
All right. See you.